Hi guys, I'm ZelRazel and welcome to our story. Today is a Saturday and it's another reaction video from your Filipino mom. If you are new here, hi, I'm ZelRazel, your Filipino mom doing reaction videos online. I also do live streaming every 9:30 p.m. Pinas Time. Here's my thumbnail. Ayan. You can talk to me live online. Yes. So, just hit the subscribe and bell button para ma-notify kayo sa mga bagong videos and live streams na meron kami. Yes. So, today is Saturday, so we're going to react on mystery and murder videos. Pero today it's more on mystery. It's from Miss Kendal Rae. Ayan, si Miss Kendal Rae, she does this murder mystery storyline na ang topic natin ay The Boy Who Remembers His Past Life as a World War II Pilot. Diba interesting? Reincarnation. Ayan. So, yung mga ganyan, guys, talagang interesado po ako. Yes, so, if you're ready, I'm ready! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's start!
He would look at them like they were idiots and say, the Japanese. And keep in mind, this kid is 2. So today we are talking about a boy, and his name is James Leiniger. He was born on April 10th of 1998 to Bruce and Andrea Leiniger. So when James was young, this is around the year of 2000, he was always obsessed with airplanes, more than just your average kid. This isn't too abnormal, but he really liked planes a lot. Andrea said that one time they were looking at a picture of a plane.
Look, there's a bomb on the bottom of it. He said, that's not a bomb, Mama, that's a drop tank.
What? So how does a 2-year-old know what a drop tank is? And it was like little things like this all the time. They were going to be moving from Texas to Louisiana. And before they left Texas, Bruce wanted to take him to the Kavanaugh Flight Museum in Addison, Texas. Bruce said that he could not believe how mesmerized his son was at this museum. James wanted to spend hours at the World War II exhibit. After being at the exhibit for 3 hours, he tried to take him away from the exhibit and he threw a huge fit. And to get him to stop crying, Bruce actually bought him a videotape, and it was a Navy Blue Angels flight demonstration tape. And they said that when he took it home, it was constantly on. He wanted to watch it all of the time.
And many people have asked us, do we have an aviation or military background? And we don't.
A little more than 2 weeks after his second birthday, towards the end of April of 2000, James started having these crazy nightmares. I know it's very normal for kids to have nightmares. This kid was experiencing nightmares like on a whole nother level. He would act like he was traumatized after being in one of the nightmares. He'd have full-on night terrors where he wouldn't realize he was dreaming and screaming and kicking in his sleep. And his parents became really concerned because this started happening 4 to 6 nights a week. The same nightmare kept happening over and over again, him being on a plane and it crashing and him burning in a plane. The first one to actually like throw out the idea of reincarnation was Andrea's mom. So this is James's grandma. His grandma said maybe James is experiencing a past life memory. Children oftentimes experience past life dreams and everything when they're young because they're closest to the other side. But they, they were just born. It's possible that all of us had memories of our past lives, but no one ever figured it out, or we didn't say anything, or we didn't know that they were past life memories. They suggested that maybe he was struggling with a past life memory, that they needed to help him get past it. And she took her mom's advice and decided to start asking him about the dreams that he was having. And his father was really, really skeptical about this. So Andrea decided to start taking him seriously when he had those dreams. It's almost like he really did just teleport from somewhere. Ask him what happened in the dream, acknowledging them. And James told him that in his dream, he was in a plane and the plane took off from a boat, but then was shot down and crashed. They would ask him, who shot you down? And he would look at them like they were idiots and say, the Japanese. And keep in mind, this kid is 2. I mean, how does he know about World War II? His parents were like baffled that he knew this. It gets way crazier than that. So they asked him who piloted the plane, who was the pilot, and he said James. They thought he was just confused and he was just saying his own name. I'm the pilot because I was the one dreaming, so James. When they asked him what plane he flew, he would say a Corsair. So they looked it up and it was a real plane. He would talk about how the Corsair had issues with landing, that he would sometimes veer to the left, and that the tires went flat easily. Now that's like a very specific thing for a 2-year-old to say. So then they asked him, what was the name of the boat that your plane flew off of before you got shot down? Like, just coming out of nowhere. This is your child. You're with them all the time. You know what they're watching. You know what they're doing. And then he randomly says Natoma. Now what's really crazy is he was right. There really was a boat called the USS Natoma. It was an aircraft carrier, so planes were flying off of it, and it was in the Pacific Ocean during World War II. His dad figured that might just be a coincidence. Maybe he just got that one. But this gets even crazier. So James also used to make a lot of drawings, like little drawings of planes, and whenever he drew anything that was related to piloting planes or World War II or something, he always signed them and wrote James 3. Now, no one knew why he started doing that. So as time went on, Bruce pretty much made it his life's work to prove this wrong, to prove that his son wasn't reincarnated, and to find a logical explanation for what strange occurrences were happening. When James was playing with like G.I. Joes and stuff, or his toys, he would sometimes take the propeller off of the front of a plane. He also gave his G.I. Joe characters pretty unusual names. He named them Leon, Billy, and Walter. And his parents had no idea where he got these names from. Bruce asked him, hey, why are those dolls named that? And he said, well, those were the guys that met me in heaven when I first got there. I just can't imagine what you'd do it as a parent. Like, I would be freaking out. His father, of course, was still skeptical. He happened to be in a book club, a history book club, and there was one month where he got a book called Battle for Iwo Jima by Derek Wright. James hopped up on his lap actually just to watch cartoons. He happened to spot one of the pages, pointed at it, and said,
he goes, Daddy, that's where my airplane was shot down.
And this is when his dad really started to freak out. I mean, this is just getting so bizarre. And he found a website called the Natoma Bay Association. And that's where he connected with a man named Leo Pyatt. Leo was actually a radio man on an Avenger fighter plane with the VC-81 squadron. And he didn't tell Leo why he was doing this, why he was asking him questions or wanted to get in contact with him. He asked him if there was any Corsairs on the Natoma, and he said no, actually. He said that there was only Wildcats and Avengers on the boat. Those were the only types that they had on the Natoma. He then wanted to find out about the location to see if his son had any accuracy with that. And he asked him, did you guys have any missions near Iwo Jima? Leo said that he had been part of 36 missions there. And then he decided to ask him if he knew someone named Jack Larson, if anyone named Jack Larson was aboard the Natoma, and he said yes. Leo didn't know what happened to Jack Larson. He said the last time that he saw him, he had just flown off the Natoma and he didn't see him ever again. Now the search was on for Jack Larson. Bruce couldn't find anything on Jack Larson anywhere. He searched the US National Archives and tried to find lists of anyone who had died while being stationed at the Natoma, and Jack Larson was never on any of the lists. He couldn't even find record of him. In September of 2002, Bruce decided to go to a Natoma Bay Association reunion, actually. And while he was there, he actually did figure out that Jack Larson was a real person. And not only that, but he's still alive. Jack Larson was currently living in Springfield, Arkansas. And after they got a hold of him, he explained that they were friends and he'd actually been his wingman that day. He said that he was struck by enemy fire, and when he didn't return, he was declared missing in action. James Houston Jr. He was a fighter pilot in the Pacific during World War II. He was stationed on the USS Natoma Bay. He was shot down at the age of 21 on a special strike mission against the Futami Ko Harbor at Chichijima, exactly where he pointed it out on a map. That means he was signing James the third, because he really was the third James. Now his dad is starting to be really confused because there's only so much denying you can do, right? But the one thing that didn't add up was the Corsair. That's what James still insisted he used to fly, a Corsair. And after Bruce did some digging, he found out that the plane that James was in when he died was actually a FM-2 Wildcat fighter plane, and it was not a Corsair. While he was at the reunion, he said no one even mentioned Corsair. And in 2003, they actually made contact with his sister. Her name was Ann Houston Barron. She was living in California, and when they contacted her and told her what was going on, she was pretty surprised, and she wanted to talk to James herself. So they had several phone conversations, and here are a couple things that James knew, and there's no way he could have known these things. James told Ann that they had a sister named Ruth. that was correct. He said that he used to call her Annie, and she confirmed that he was actually the only one who called her Annie. He told her that as children they had matching portraits done by an artist. Those are such specific things from someone he's never met, never talked to, that how on earth would he have known those things? She obviously was really overwhelmed, and she offered to send a package to James with some things in it and photos. So when they got the package, they opened it up, and the first picture they saw was James Houston Jr. standing in front of a Corsair airplane. That was his favorite plane. That's what he learned to fly with. It's what he flew with most. So no wonder James remembered and was so stubborn about the Corsair, even though they were not even part of the Natoma. And after that, Bruce was sold. He said that was the one missing piece he needed. It made complete sense. The whole thing made sense now. After doing some more digging and talking to other veterans from the Natoma, you know those 3 G.I. Joe dolls that he had named like strange names? Those were real people. And their full names were Billy Peeler, Leon Connor, and Walter Devlin. So they were completely real people that served with him. Bruce, after being so involved in this and doing all this heavy research for so long, actually decided to contribute to the memorial for the Natoma Bay. Many Natoma Bay veterans actually came to this memorial event. So James was a little bit older at this point. He actually got to go to the memorial and see all these veterans. And one guy named Bob Greenwald was there. He was actually someone that served with James Houston Jr. Now what's so weird is that James guessed that this guy was Bob before even knowing it was him. He said that he recognized his voice. Chills, sorry, chills. I mean, it's just so crazy. It's so weird. After the ceremony, his parents noticed that he kind of seemed like bummed out or like not in a good mood, and he said that was because they were all old. There's a lot of people out there that think this whole thing was a lie, that James was in on it, but he's 2 years old. Now James is older. He still thinks that he is a reincarnated version of James Houston Jr. And I've said this before, but I love the analogy of like consciousness being like a radio signal. It's always on. Your soul is always on like a signal, but it needs a device to pick it up, if that makes sense. So the body is like a device. I love to hear stories like this. I love reincarnation stories, especially with facts like this, where it's just like, how could you disprove this? But that is it for me today, guys. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Alright, so ayun. If you haven't watched our other reaction videos, here's our playlist of all our reaction videos na nagawa. Click nyo na yun, no? Click nyo na yun. So, if you have any suggestion of other reaction videos na gusto ninyong gawan ng reaction by your Filipino mom, i-type mo na yun sa baba, no? And I could also bring my daughter with me kung pwede niyang reactan din. Why not, Poknat? Sa mapipili po nating video, free shoutout po yun sa magsasuggest dito po sa ating videos and sa ating live stream every 9:30 PM Pinas Time. Kayo ba, naniniwala ba kayo sa mga reincarnations na ganyan, di ba? Parang mahirap nga talagang paniwalaan, pero tingin ko talaga at ako po ay talagang firm believer po yan. I'll see you on our next reaction videos! Bye! Bye!